this this show, I can see what's working. I can also see where like it's gonna go off the rails, at least for me. And I know this is like the third episode where I've said this, but like I can see the path. I can see the path so clearly. The Last of Us. So this is episode four. Four? Four. Most recent episode. So we have Ellie and Dina in Seattle, sort of trying to get their bearings. We get a little bit of a look at the WLF. We get introduced to the character of Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright, who I love. Jeffrey Wright's good in everything. So certainly a solid addition to the cast, and he's very good at the sort of dark, heavy gruffness that is very appropriate for this show. So he's a good pick. And we get some action stuff. We get a horde of infected, which was fine. So I'm kind of gonna just zero right in on what it was about this episode that I was like, okay, yeah, this is working, and why I'm afraid it's not going to be enough. So the growing relationship between Dina and Ellie, it's nicely done. And I'm going to mention something that makes it sound like it lost me, but it didn't. But if I'm being completely honest, after Ellie like has convinced Dina that like she is in fact immune and she's not going to turn, the fact that Dina goes, "I'm pregnant," I laughed, and especially when Ellie was like, "What?" Which was basically my thoughts. I laughed, but not in a way that killed the moment. Oddly, it just kind of felt sweetly awkward and like, what does that have to do with anything? And again, like that what from Ellie kind of like emphasized to me that like, yeah, this is meant to be slightly adorably awkward. And the two of them, starting to build something more substantial is a nice thing to have. And there's definitely a melancholy to a lesbian and a bisexual seeing the rainbow flag and seeing the words pride and not knowing what that means. It was funny. There was like a half second where my brain went, well, maybe they don't need to know because like everyone's accepted now. But then I remembered the guy who called them a homophobic slur a couple episodes ago, and I was like, oh no, right. And like, yes, I know that they kind of gave that guy a little mini redemption-y thing going on, but like he still said it, which means it's still a thing. So it's like they've been denied the concept of pride in who they are because no one's maintained it in this falling apart world. There was something sweetly melancholy about that because it doesn't necessarily diminish their experiences of themselves, but it does make me wonder, could Dina have been more comfortable with who she is if the notion of pride in gayness was still around, because it appears to not really be. Now, the reason I said that all this really worked for me is because the overriding question that I was finding myself asking as this episode went on is, who am I supposed to root for in this? Because we get a little bit more information on, I guess I'm just going to call them the Scars for now, the cult that we saw. And they kind of like, they try and soft pedal an explanation for why it was maybe, at least to them, acceptable that they murdered children when they took out the branch of this cult, which is that the children are taught to fight. I'm like, okay, that still feels like you're just looking for a excuse. But obviously from what we see of this guy, like, yeah, no, these can be very nasty people. Although I definitely noted that this guy that Isaac is torturing, and we torture, I actually kind of appreciate that it didn't work. I am definitely at a point in my life where I'm I am pretty well past the torture gets you reliable information thing, because like it doesn't, and we know it doesn't. So I was kind of glad it didn't work. But in any case, the guy that he is trying to get answers from, that he is interrogating, is clearly more fanatical. Like, seems to have a very legitimate belief in their prophet as like someone watching over him. And Isaac even mentions, not all of them even think like you. Some of them are fully aware that the prophet was just a person with an idea and some notions of what they should be doing. And this guy who he's interrogating goes, well, that's heresy. So what's interesting to me about that is, given the very brief conversation that we had between the kid and the guy last episode, that would seem to indicate that these were some of the not particularly fanatical kind of this cult, of this group, which would lead me to think it might be less likely that the kids were going to attack and that they needed to be put down. I mean, in fact, like the whole group hid, and they seem to be hiding out of fear, not out of intent to ambush. So there's a lot of messiness, which I think is a good thing, in terms of like, okay, we're showing you like how bad this group can be. Like, yeah, but the guy you're using as an example seems like he is on the farther end of an extreme from the group that we were actually dealing with. And I think that's purposeful. But it still brings me back to the question, who am I meant to be rooting for? Because you're establishing to me now why this cult are bad news, and you are definitely proving to me over and over again that the WLF are frickin' monsters. And who does that leave me? Well, that leaves me Ellie and Dina, and thankfully I am liking them as characters. I am connecting with them. But here's the problem. I'm not really rooting for them. I want them to be happy, but the happiness I want for them is for them to realize that what they're doing is a bad idea and to stop and leave. But they're not going to. I can root for their happiness, but I can't bring myself to root for what it is they're actually intending to do. And as yet, that has not become a breaking point for me, but it could be, because right now they are what I'm clinging on to. Because at a certain point, when you get to a certain level of everybody sucks, it becomes borderline nihilistic, and I tend to check out. When there's nobody here that I feel like I even would want to be in the same room as, I tend to just check out and go like, okay, well, everybody here sucks. I don't need to be here. Like, you all go suck in the corner. And this isn't quite there yet, but I'm afraid, because I'm pretty sure, and from my understanding of the stories, that Ellie is going to go to such extremes over revenge that I'm going to lose my ability to hope for better things for her. And like, I already kind of know, like, I can hope all day long that this is going to end well, but it's not. It's just not. But it's still holding me. Like, this is my third episode now, I think. No, episode 5. 5? I can't remember. But I think this is the third episode in a row where I've said something to the extent of, I'm pretty sure this is going to lose me, but it hasn't yet. And you know what? Here's what I'll say. If this can keep me right on that edge, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to bail, but boy, you're coming close to the line. If this can just dance right up to the edge of that line, but not ever actually cross it, that will be honestly really impressive. We'll see if I can get there, though. I don't know. We'll see. The Last of Us, episode whatever one this was. I think it was 4. It's 4. It was episode 4. But what did you... Whatever. What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills. That enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Quite Bearish, Zubin Lutfula, Mara G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Andre, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Pal Barabajoggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. And also Toka Blue Hoovian, Auntie Kate 808, and Tracy Scrabbit. If you'd like to hear me try and pronounce your name correctly while these guys chitter in my ears, check out the reward tiers on the Patreon. Yes, I hear you.